What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the issa channel. So today I wanted to share some actual examples of shadow work, not just the prompts, but an actual response or two from my shadow work, how I do it, because I realized that I've shared prompts with you guys in a really good blog that I found that has 26 questions for beginners if you want to start doing shadow work. But I've had a couple people that know me personally reach out to me since I made those videos and ask me a little bit more about the process of answering those questions and getting a little bit I guess deeper into the explanation of the answer that you give. So I figured one of the things I'm working on with myself is being more expressive. So a month or two ago I would never have really shared this because it's kind of like a diary entry, or you know what I mean? It's like Dear Diary type stuff. But I feel way more comfortable now as I've been doing this kind of stuff. So I just feel like I'm just going to share it with you guys. Hopefully it'll be a more in-depth explanation for anybody who's looking for that. Also, I've been wanting to put this video out for days, but unfortunately we had a death in the family, so I've just been tending to my family these past few days, and this was kind of the only chance that I had to do this because my daughter is refusing to take naps. Long story short, she's in the back taking a nap right now, and this was my opportunity to make the video. So you might just be hearing all these cars driving past. I hope it's not messing with the audio or anything, but hopefully I can get this whole video out before she wakes up. So let's get into it. So this is the journal that I use. It's just a cute little journal that I've had for years. I love this journal, and I do a lot of my writings in it. So before I was doing shadow work, I would just sometimes write, just write, I guess, how I feel. Sometimes it's poetic, sometimes it doesn't rhyme, sometimes it's just scribble scrabble, but I like to get things out in that way from time to time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read you off the question from the prompt, and again I'll leave all of the prompts in the link down below in the blog post that I found, which is the 26 for starters. Sorry, I just didn't even finish my sentence. The 26 shadow work prompt exercises for beginners, which are really good. I really like them, so I'll leave that down below. And then also I made a video kind of explaining a little bit more about that as well. So okay, so this is one I did probably about a week ago, and on that list below, the question is number 10. It says, have you ever felt embarrassed of who you are and what made you feel that way? So I'm just gonna read it off to you guys, my response, and then I'll kind of tell you how I answer it, blah blah blah. So I wrote, I've been embarrassed about many aspects of myself since my recollection of childhood. Never truly fitting in anywhere can make one feel ostracized, like an outcast even. Embarrassed to not be quote unquote American enough to my peers and friends growing up, and to be too American or Americanized to the judgmental crowd in my family and culture. My mom used to tell me I was lost. At the time, I just felt misunderstood, but there was truth to what she said. There is no place I feel truly at home. It makes sense why I don't feel stuck to residing in only one area of a region, or maybe one day I can even say country. I always admired others who had that one place they can proudly call home, but I love the adaptation that became of me by exploring new territories and becoming immersed in other people's different cultures as well. I love learning this way. I hope other lost souls get to see it that way too. And so I wrote a page worth of text, and that's what I usually do. I always date my stuff. I don't know why. It's just this thing I do. I always date at the top of my papers, whatever it is I'm writing. I guess because it kind of just takes me back. Whenever I do come across the writing again, it just takes me back to where I was at that point in time. And then I wrote the question down, and then I just made sure I filled it up to the very bottom of the page. So basically, in response to the question, it's you want to dig deeper than what's on the surface. So what's on the surface is them saying, have you ever felt embarrassed of who you are? What made you feel that way? On the surface response is just 2 sentences that says, yeah, I have. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I was embarrassed when one time at band camp when my period came on and people laughed. You know what I'm like? That is just saying an incident that happened type of thing. You're not actually explaining what about it made you feel that way, how that continued to affect you. So if you ever feel stuck, like you feel like you can't keep writing, I do challenge you to do at least one page, because it will just force you to keep coming up with different details, and also things that trigger you, you'll notice often have the most impact as far as your emotions and how things are affecting you, because you want to really figure out why is that thing like triggering you so much, like, because it's usually the things that trigger you, they have some truth behind it, and you don't want to face that truth, or you don't like that about it. So again, first I answered it with the basic things, like, okay, embarrassed about essentially like my identity kind of thing. And if you don't know, I'm Eritrean American, so I was born and raised in America, but my entire family is Eritrean from East Africa. And like a lot of other first generation Americans, like my family thought I was like too Americanized, or like I was, you know, to them I like fit in more with my peers, my friends who were American. But then being amongst all my friends and peers who were American, like there was a difference there with me. And so this is what I was saying in the post here, is that there was it's an embarrassment kind of like in both parts, a little bit of shame, because you feel like you're not fully accepted, or like the feeling of belonging. So the line in here, my mom used to tell me I was lost. At the time, I just felt misunderstood, but there was truth to what she said. So I used to be really furious and irritated when she would say stuff like that to me, and she would tell me that I'm lost or I'm confused and stuff, but I was feeling that way. It was just that there's this we make associations to certain feelings as if they're like negative and positive, instead of just looking at things for what they are, as it is what it is. Like, we shouldn't be so overwhelmed with either emotion when it comes to certain things. So I was taking what she was telling me not for what it was, which was the truth, but because I was just so filled with emotion about it, I was taking it personally and feeling like it was an attack almost, or something that was negative towards me. And so that is how I felt at the time, feeling like, oh, so misunderstood. But I couldn't just have like a regular conversation explaining how I felt about it. It was associated to an emotional thing to me. And I think a lot of times that's what we do when we're triggered by things. Is like we have some sort of association to a negative feeling with that situation or interaction, whatever it is. Sometimes even just that adjective that might describe us, and we don't like that or something. So in here I can unbiasedly now, however many years, decades later, say there was truth to what she said, but I didn't want to look at it from that point of view when I was drenched in emotion. And I think that's what we do a lot when we find ourselves in arguments with people, like heated debates, and people say triggering things to us, and then we're so consumed with the emotion of what someone just said to us. It's like it's going in one ear and out the other at that point. And then the little voice, I always talk about this little crazy voice in our head, right? The little voice, it's not even you, that's just in your head. I know mine just be instigating, just tagging on. I can be in the middle of an argument with my husband, and he say something I don't like. That little voice in my head be cussing him out, and don't even be listening to what he's saying anymore. So he could be saying some real stuff, right? And at that point, I'm checked out, because I'm like, what did he just say? Who is he talking to? Like, that's where this goes. And so by doing these kinds of things and addressing these kinds of things, you kind of become a little more, I would say, more emotionally intelligent the more you do this. And then you'll kind of sit back and start to realize, when you do get into a debate or an argument with somebody and they say things that you've already kind of addressed within yourself, it doesn't hurt when they say it anymore. Like, you know what I mean? And then when that doesn't happen, when that emotional aspect of the argument or debate doesn't happen, you're able to actually listen to what the other person is saying, and then you can actually work through a conversation without it being a bunch of chaos. And that's, I believe, the point of doing shadow work, besides getting to know yourself better, is really to mitigate the amount of chaos in your life, because it's just like unnecessary chaos when you can just have a regular conversation with somebody and learn something new about yourself, learn something new about them, or whatever it is. But we block out hearing. We have selective hearing when it comes to things that trigger us emotionally. So if we can work past those emotions that are just, we don't even realize are there sometimes, then that's kind of the point of this. So if I was to break down my response in like some sort of like a structure in the way I responded to it, the first part of it is me addressing, like, answering the question basically. So have you ever felt embarrassed of who you are? I answered the question, and then I also answered what made me felt that way. And then I moved on to the trigger, which was, my mom used to say this to me, and like I said, unbiasedly, 10 or 15, 20, I don't know how many years later, I would say like probably 15 to 20 years later, you know, it doesn't take any of my ego aside to write down in a random diary that it's just me talking to myself, kind of, to say that she was right about something, because I know a lot of us have a hard time admitting those things as well, especially when we are entrenched in our own emotions. So you can be honest, and that's the thing. Sometimes it's hard for us to be honest about things that we don't like about ourselves, but if you don't acknowledge it first, there's not really much you can do as far as working towards it, because you're not even accepting it. And that's the first part, is accepting it and moving past it in that way. So what I also did here is, after I said what was the problem here, I also went on to say how I noticed that affected me in a way that I perceived to be a positive way. Because even though I admit that I always admired when, like, other people being able to say like that they're born and raised one place and they're like so proud of wherever they're from. Like, I always felt like that was really cool when you meet somebody, most people, and they're like, yeah, I'm from such and such. But I never really, like, we moved around as I was a kid too, so I never really felt attached to like one place. But what that has led to is, I guess, this really goes with my personality, is very like free-spirited, and I just really go with the flow. And so in that, I'm able to adapt to like anywhere that I move to, or anywhere that I go. I don't feel stuck in any one area. I really do feel like this earth, like this big ass earth, is my home. Like, it's everyone's home. And I think that we should be able to, and we should be, I think part of our mission here, whatever that is, because I don't know exactly what it is, I think part of it is for us to explore beyond the little boxes that we're born into and we think is our worlds. It's like there's so many worlds out here, but it's all one world together. But so many people are just like in this one little box, this little world, and they never branch out beyond that. And so I've been blessed to have like a pretty cultured upbringing. My family is all around, literally, like probably in every continent except for Antarctica. And it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. I like I said in here, I love learning this way. I love learning from people, experiences with other people's cultures, and traveling and voyaging. And I would move to another country, kind of thing, in which I know a lot of people who wouldn't feel comfortable with even moving out of the city or the state that they're from. And so it's a different perspective to have. And I kind of just closed this thing out by saying, even though it came from a place that I had an association of negativity, the difference in perspective now is, okay, that was how it came to be, but when I look at it now, it's not negative to me anymore. It just is what it is. And it's something that I can actually appreciate some of the effects of it from too. So the last sentence was, I hope other lost souls get to see it that way too. So I'm just saying, like, there's different ways that you can look at anything that you experience. And that's not to say, like, look at the bright side of something that was very traumatic for you or something like that. I'm not being insensitive there, but we do learn from every experience, whether it made us stronger or whether it told us what not to do again, kind of thing, or if it's just something that you realized you shouldn't have been associating negativity towards this one thing. But when we're children and we start associating things, we're not mature enough yet to realize that we can just look at something for what it is. Instead, we have these feelings about how somebody said something to us or made us feel about it in a way that makes us think that there's something negative attributed to that. And so that's how I usually answer mine. I make sure I get to the end of the page because it just forces me to keep thinking further into the actual situation or whatever it is. And then, writing it out is way more intentional than just thinking about it, because your thoughts go everywhere. If I wrote down every single thought I had while I was writing this, it would have been way beyond one page. But I was intentional about where my thoughts were going and what was important enough to write down, and how it kind of told a story in like a linear fashion. But not to say that you have to do it that way, because everyone's going to do this differently. I just wanted to give maybe a new perspective if you weren't looking at it from that perspective, or just, I don't even want to say like validation to whatever you thought it was, because however you're doing it is correct because it's you doing your shadow work your way. I just want to make sure that I'm being clear about like how in depth you go when you're answering the questions to really get the results that you want in discovering new things about yourself, and then also changing your perspective about things, because we're gonna uncover things that, like I said, we have negative associations to, and maybe they are triggers for us when they come up in life, and then we find ourselves in chaotic fights and arguments for no reason, or we find ourselves having fear to move on in certain elements of our life, but we don't even know why. Like, this is just how we think we are and how we're designed. But a lot of growth will come from this, doing this and discovering new things, whether you want to whether you're ready to like really change things. Even just knowing why you act the way that you do behavioral wise is really important. And you might find themes, like when you look at when you reread these in different pages, you might see that like the emotional theme of this page and that page and this page, like the common thing is shame or fear or anger, or just like all these words that are like basic words that we could all describe. We know what these emotions are, we know how they feel. But I would also challenge you to, if you do notice that kind of thing, search that word, search whatever it is that you're noticing, identity, like any of these words, search them. Because even if you feel like you already know what that word is and what it means, because it's a basic word that everyone uses in everyday language, search it on YouTube or on Google, whatever. But on YouTube, I'll link some really great channels that I found on YouTube below, in which it's called, it's pretty much channels that will like intellectually and philosophically go and psychologically as well. There's like real psychologists and everything on here that they'll get way more in depth about human behavior. And so when you do get to learning more about shame and fear and like these words that, like I said, we think are basic words, y'all, it's life-changing when you really start looking at it from a different perspective. Like look at it from a philosophical perspective, from a psychological perspective, and you will find that it will just level you up in so many ways. Like it will obviously be enhancing the knowledge that you have, but then, like I said, you can look at yourself inwardly and you can really grow from this. And so you start to recognize things in other people as far as the way that they react to certain things and insecurities, things that you were doing at one point or maybe are working towards not doing now. You start to recognize it in other people, and it's like something that before you would just say like, he was tripping, I don't know why he got so hype over blah blah, but now as you start to see it and you're like, somebody got some shadow work to do. That's really what it feels like. But anyways, guys, this video is getting a little lengthy here, so I'm only going to share that one for now. Maybe I'll make another one sharing some more, but I really hope that was helpful for anybody who just wanted a more in-depth explanation as to really do shadow work, rather than just finding questions to answer. So if you did find value in this video, give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love if you did so. I can't believe my daughter still didn't wake up, but I'm just happy about that. So anyways, I will see you guys in the next one.